Sorry, I didn't mean to ditch. Shiloh, whose name was now officially confirmed, gestured with a hand to add to the explanation of his absence as the stranger watched impatiently. They thought they recognized me as someone they knew. But it was a tiny misunderstanding. Liz theoretically, as well as literally, put her foot down at that, stomping in frustration and getting more childish the longer she was around her childhood companion. We do know you. Shiloh merely shrunk in on himself. The tone he spoke with was pained. Sorry. You honestly couldn't tell if he was apologizing for the upset feelings of your sister, or the palpable dissatisfaction of his new acquaintance. That in itself was very Shiloh-like. Oh, you know him. Is that it? The stranger spoke in a dismissively scoffing tone, as if the words sounded so absurd to him it was almost amusing. Almost, but the sternness of his demeanor quickly reinstated itself. Well, you know me? I'll tell you. I'm someone who has been forced against his will to be aware of what's going on in Shiloh's ridiculous personal life for a year. If the two of you had any importance in his general day-of-to-day existence, it would have come up by now. Don't bother trying to exaggerate any trivial connection you might have. It's not good enough. He's with us and you'll survive without him. Now stop loitering the road. It's rude. Speaking of rude... Excuse me? We're the rude ones? The high-strung ranting got an audible gasp from Shiloh, who finally started to speak up again in defense. Nate, that's really mean. It's also true. We're leaving. With that declaration, the unofficially introduced Nate indignantly spun on his heels and walked speedily towards where the group went, completely confident that Shiloh would follow behind. People can sure have bad attitudes, huh? Why can't they just try to get along? It's not hard. Don't worry, though, I bet you won't have to deal with him again. And I'm sorry I can't stay to talk to you, but I hope you have a really nice life. Bye! And that was it. His final parting words given, Shiloh left the two of you behind to catch up on his own life that he had to go live. Liz watched his exit stunned, only to frown when it hit her that he was really gone as quickly as he appeared. It happened so fast you hadn't even been able to get a word in. She sighed, all the energy she built up releasing with the breath. I could have told him his last name was Fields, his birthday is October 30th, that would have proved it, but no. I'm sorry, Liz. Wow, Shiloh grew up to be dumb. You were left feeling adequately deflated. Whoever Nate is, he stinks. Well, you couldn't help but laugh. Whoever Nate is, he stinks. He was so unnecessarily unpleasant when all you wanted to do was to talk to someone for a moment. Why aren't you running after him? Liz merely shook her head, pushing her off childish thoughts. I think we can leave it there, thanks. He's in the middle of a high school field trip, and it was already enough being able to see him. There's something reassuring about witnessing firsthand that he's still out there, enjoying his own part of the world. That's very mature of you, Liz. Though if given the chance, I could definitely have a few words with him about the company he's got. She laughed, but you could tell there wasn't much humor to it. She was mad at that guy, even if she was happy to let Shiloh go. Maybe they're only with each other because of the trip and it's not usually how things are. True. We can only hope the same for him as he did for us. Have a nice life, Shiloh. Have a good life. Bye, Shiloh. We'll miss you. Good luck out there. You'll need it. You didn't have anything left to say. We'll miss you. Liz smiled at you. It had the self-confidence you knew so well from her. Come on, little baby bro. Let's finish our own trip. Yeah. No matter how either of you really felt about the occurrence, it was something you simply had to accept. People you know just disappear and reappear in the most unexpected ways. As part of life, the two of you enjoyed what remained of your outing until it was time to return home. By the time you arrived back, the sun was already beginning to set. You arched your back as you stretched your arms towards the ceiling. While it had been a good day, it had enough activity to cover an entire week. Liz tried to hide a yawn behind her hands. You aren't the only one feeling worn out. I'll be heading up to your room. The guest room, since mine stopped being available as soon as I was out the door. Her tone was light. She had quite a lot to say on the subject when you first had taken over her bigger room after she left for college, but there have been many trips back home for her since then. The room hasn't been hers for years. It was more of a running joke now that she continued to bring the topic up to this day. Let it go, Liz. I didn't see your name on it. Thank you, Liz. It's a really nice room. Thanks for being so gracious about giving it up. Just wanted to follow my big sister's shoes. Thanks for being so gracious about giving it up. I had no choice. A small laugh was shared between you and your older sister. You better believe you'll be back in the guest room when you've got your own place and we're both in town for a visit. Not if I'm moving in with Derek. We can take turns. You'll have Thanksgiving, I'll get Christmas. Sure. Don't count on it. It's alright with me. I don't need it. We can take turns. You'll have Thanksgiving, I'll get Christmas. What a reasonable and mature suggestion. I'll think about accepting it. She flashed her familiar grin, and You couldn't help but feel glad she was back around, even if it was temporary. With that, she plodded off to the spare room. You were ready to do the same. Moving into a new space was your first opportunity to decorate from scratch. Nice. Design my room. Blue, green, purple, yellow. I mean, I'll go with yellow. Extras. Yeah. Window, left, right, walls, left, back, lights. Oh, I see. Extras. Window. Oh. Books. Oh. Yeah, I would have had like. Yeah. Walls. I would have had a bulletin board. Sure. Lights. No, I would have had that. Floor. Left. No ball. Sure, maybe. Alright. Cool. You were really satisfied with the feel of your tiny part of the world. You dragged your weary body into your bedroom. Your bed beckoned. After arriving, you laid down on it, staring up at the ceiling as you mused over how to spend your evening and thought back on the day's events. With a busy day behind you, it was nice to have some space, purely to think. Time slipped by, the evening turning into night. The peace was broken by a buzz of the doorbell. You went to answer it. You ignored the sound. Someone else would get it. Sure, I'll answer it. Hopping up from the bed, you casually went downstairs to see who was there. You reached the front door, unsure of what to expect this late in the day. Given how far out you lived from others your age, it was unusual to have people stopping by unannounced. Shockingly, Cove Holden met you on the other side. It was something that happened many times in your life, but you hadn't realized he was back in the neighborhood.
Hey.
Hi, Hark. Happy graduation. His appearance and his message only surprised you further. You wondered how long he'd been around for. Living so close by meant it was hard to miss when he was there. However, this was about the first time you'd seen him this summer. He does look handsome still. Hello. I thought you'd never come back. Happy graduation to you too. What do you want? Sup, man? Happy graduation to you too. Thanks. Encouraged by your response, Cove smiled brightly at you. Mostly I was checking in. Your moms wanted to know when I'd be home. What with it being a pretty long trip and everything. Could you tell them for me? Sure. Nope. You nodded. You shrugged. What did they care about that? Why did they care about that? Sorry they bothered you about that. No, I'm gonna be polite. Sure. It wasn't as if relaying the message would cost you more than a few seconds. Thanks, I appreciate it. He raised a hand and waved. Bye. Guess I'll see you around this summer? As you hadn't been expecting Cove, the news you'd been meaning to tell him had slipped from your mind when he'd returned up unexpectedly. It came back to you now. I have to tell you, you're never gonna guess who I saw today. You didn't give Cove a chance to reply. There seriously was no way that he'd figured it out. Shiloh. Shiloh? Cove repeated the name, his expression blank. From when we were kids? Cove pondered for a moment, then snapped his fingers. Oh, he was the freckly boy from that first summer, right? The one who moved. The guy was named Shiloh, and he looked just like Shiloh from back then, even wearing a hat still. But he had no idea who I was and ran off somewhere. Cove frowned. That's, I don't know. Too bad I missed it, though you knew him better than I did. That was definitely true. Not only had Cove known Shiloh for a shorter period of time, but he and Shiloh had never quite gotten along. Not that they were enemies either, just kids who were only ever together because other people they both knew. That's pretty much me and Cove. In this universe. I wonder what Shiloh's up to these days. I don't have any idea. He didn't say much. Oh, well, that was everything you had on that news item, so you moved on to the next big update. Also, you know the mean old neighbors, the ones who would always yell at us? He cringed, recalling those particular memories of back in the day was not pleasant even for someone as nostalgic as him. Yeah? They're not coming. They didn't rent the condo this summer. Cove's jaw dropped. You didn't blame him. The elderly couple had been an institution as far back as you could remember, long predating Cove's arrival. Even now, as a teenager, you found your neck prickling as you walked by their condo, half expecting a scolding for breathing the wrong way in the vicinity of their vacation home. It was strange to think of that coming to an end. Wow. Cove blinked, clearly struggling with the idea in the same way you had. I didn't see that coming. People being gone, people coming back, it feels like I've missed a lot. This has been a busy summer already. Well, you hadn't missed the fireflies. They hadn't shown up yet. Thanks for keeping me in the loop. But I'm gonna get going now. See you! You just caught him turning to head home as you closed the door behind him. Neighborly duties dispensed, you could now get back to your evening. It seemed that no sooner had the night begun that it was already at an end, and the dawn of a new day was soon upon you. The next morning, your belly was full of breakfast, and you were in a pleasant mood. You hoped the rest of the day followed suit. Initially, you didn't have any plans for today, but your friends roped you into meeting up to go into town later. Since Cove was finally back home, Miranda and Terry couldn't wait to come down to the neighborhood. Having a nice daydream? You blinked, pushing all your thoughts away and returning to reality. Your mom was watching you with a teasing smile. So, what's on the agenda today? I'm meeting up with some people. Well, I hope you and your friends have fun. Don't get into too much trouble. She winked at you. You both knew if your moms wanted you to enjoy every bit of the summer before all the big changes started. I'll try. But before you go gallivanting around the town, could you bring the mail in? I'm finishing up putting the dishes away over here. All right. Thanks very much. As soon as you were outside your front door, you couldn't help but see Cove and his dad standing around in the road. They noticed you too. Hey there, Hark. Hi, good timing. You should come join us. Hi, Cove. Hi, Mr. Holden. So, what are you up to today? Me and Cove are meeting some friends later. We're gonna paint the town red. Exciting. They won't know what hit him. Cove shook his head disapprovingly, but you know him well enough to tell that he was entertained by your notion. Yawning, Mr. Holden stretched his arms over his head. My boy and I have just been waiting around to see what the new neighbors are like. It was definitely his idea. I don't know how you're not interested in this. It's big news. Besides, it'll only be polite to meet the new folks in town. Maybe it'll be a single dad and his son. You could have been here too long. You've been here too long if seeing a new person rent a condo is what you're considered exciting development. Yes, I'm dying to see newcomers. Your response was just a shrug. I don't want to meet them. Well, anyone has to be better than the last tenants. Yeah, no, I'd be excited for new faces. Hart gets it. Cove raised an eyebrow. Really? You too? Yeah, it could be anyone. The beach attracts all kinds of people. Cove thought about your words for a few seconds and then nodded understandingly. I guess. Mr. Holden took one more glance at the currently vacant building and sighed dramatically. When he returned back to you and Cove, his whole body seemed deflated. There's no sign of them, and I still need to head over to work soon. Cove gave his dad a few reassuring pats on the back. Okay, I promise to keep an eye out. I can text you if anything happens. Of course. Really? Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, only until I have to meet up with Terry and Miranda. Would that still work? With a wide grin breaking out on his face, Mr. Holden looked absolutely thrilled to have his nosiness enabled. That works. He moved to firmly place his both hands over Cove's shoulders, fixing his child with a firm stare. Son, you are my true ally in this world. Mr. Holden stood up straighter, letting Cove go. He looked reinvigorated. Okay, with that settled, I'll go make some money. That's always been the one thing I do best. And giving it away. $20. Mr. Holden headed off to the garage with a big wave goodbye. Cove smiled the whole time he watched his dad leave. You really liked Mr. Holden. Mr. Holden was one of your favorite people. Cove's dad was kind of a bother. You had mixed feelings, Mr. Holden. I'm gonna say you really liked Mr. Holden. You had for a long time. I can see myself crushing on Cove's dad. As soon as he was out of sight, Cove sighed lightly. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm just not looking forward to waiting. Guess I'll be hanging around the street a while. Good luck. See you later, bye. I'll stick around to see the new neighbor. Why don't I stay to see the new year and keep you company? I'll say... Alright, good luck. Despite the slightly teasing tone in your voice, you knew it meant... You meant it, knowing Cove would rather be doing anything else than this. But you figured the wait wouldn't be much longer. Yeah, see ya. You walked off towards your house, double-checking that you retrieved all the mail and went inside. Your mom met you shortly after you closed the front door. Thank you very much. You're welcome. She started shuffling through the envelopes idly, and you took that as your moment to head upstairs to your room. Time quickly passed while you relaxed in peace and quiet. When you looked at the clock, you noticed that it was close to when you had mentally planned to head out of town. You got yourself together and left your home, waving to your parents along the way. You were surprised to still see Cove outside. He was sitting hunched over in his front porch step, busy scrolling through something on his phone. The neighbors haven't moved in? As you approached, Cove's gaze flicked up at you, his mouth pulled into a half-hearted smile. Uh-huh, nothing's happened yet. That stinks, I thought they would have been here by now. Me too. It's gotta happen sometime. Yeah. The neighborhood was quiet, and you sighed contentedly, closing your eyes and feeling the light breeze. Eventually, you both perked up at the sound of a car. A taxi followed the noise, turning onto your street. Cove's eyebrows raised at the sight, and he sat up straight on the stoop.
Oh?
This has to be them, right? The only people come out here, live here. It has to be. It has to be. You leaned forward, sitting on the edge of the front step. You couldn't wait to finally put an end to the suspense and get a look at the new neighbor. The taxi pulled to a stop as you expected, in front of the now empty condo. It was on the same side of the street as your house, a few buildings further up. Without getting to his feet, Cove tried leaning and tilting his head to get a view of the passenger door as it opened. The single occupant exited the cab. Huh? You could feel what Cove was in that moment. After the last renters, this new visitor was definitely not exactly what you expected. It was a young man, had to be close to your own age. He was dressed fully in an eclectic black, white, and gray outfit. Even his side-swooping hair matched the scene. Look, that mole, the mole in his neck, so that was Baxter. That was Baxter at the soiree. That's pretty cool. The only other pop of color was, I'm wondering if I make a reference to that I recognized him from the soiree. The only other pop of color was from something that couldn't easily be fashioned into a submission. A pair of dark brown eyes which you caught when he looked over at his audience. Hello folks, who might you be? We're the neighbors. The smile already prominent on his face curled further. It was cocky, but you didn't get the impression it meant something at first. Hallelujah. You and Cove shared a familiar look with one another, bewildered even further. The color-coordinated man left it there. However, and with a firm click, he shut the door of his ride. Then he turned his back to you and to retrieve a large, unsurprisingly black suitcase out of the trunk. Continuing on with his own business, he strolled forward and lightly tapped on the driver's side window with his knuckles, asking for them to roll it down. When it opened, he leaned down and rested his arm on the edge. You assumed he was thanking the driver for getting him there, considering he slipped them a tip during the brief chat. They shook hands, and then he pushed himself up and away from the taxi with both arms, giving the driver room to leave. The taxi pulled away, rolling carefully down the road and out of sight around the corner. The new renter had officially arrived. He left his suitcase on the ground, out of the way of the street, and sauntered over to your way with the confidence of someone who had been invited to join. Cove finally stood up to greet this person. You followed suit. I'm Baxter Ward. It's excellent to meet you, neighbors. You were standing on the side he was approaching from. When Baxter got close enough, he offered his hand to you first. You shook it. You offered to low-five him. You held your arms open to offer a hug instead. You offered a low-five. Baxter made it work and twisted his hand to oblige your greeting of choice. Welcome to Sunset Bird, Baxter. I'm Hark. Hey, Hark. I am quite keen on getting to know you better this summer. We could be good friends. And you are? He lifted his hand out to Cove next. Cove shook his hand, still eyeing Baxter carefully. I'm Cove. Baxter's whole demeanor lit up for unknown reasons. His eyes shone as he studied Cove a moment. Now, wait, is that a nickname or your real name? It's just my name. Cove spoke mildly, having given that explanation many times in the past, but it clearly charmed Baxter all the same. He tossed his head to one side with a laugh. I totally ship these two now. Now that I'm not in a relationship with Cove, totally ship them. Your parents knew exactly what they were doing. I can imagine a more fitting name for the face I'm seeing. Cove. That's gorgeous.
What?
It's really not. No, I agree it suits you. That's a lot considering you're talking to a stranger, Baxter. You didn't know what to say. That's a lot considering you're talking to a stranger, Baxter. I'm sorry, it wasn't intended to mean more than it did. I like your name, but you don't have to mind that. Cove gave a slight nod in recognition of Baxter's words. I'm patently against stepping on anyone's toes. He chuckled to himself. It seemed like there was some extra meaning hidden there in his words, and you noticed that Cove raised an eyebrow, picking up on that too. Baxter stood up straighter, striking a slight pose with the position of his feet. He began to speak, but suddenly stopped and closed his mouth. He became absorbed with his own thoughts, tapping his fingers to the side of his chin as he stared at you. You shot Cove a confused glance. He shrugged in response. After a few moments, Baxter had the same smile curl from before. He removed a finger from his face and used it to point directly at you. We've met before. Yeah, here we go. What? When? Baxter continued to smile widely, his head tilted slightly to the side as he studied your visage. It's embarrassing, but I haven't remembered that part yet. He laughed cordially while Cove stared at him in disbelief. Baxter chuckled further, mirth growing at what must have been a very amusing situation in his mind. I'm getting there. Don't tell me. I know you want to, but do not. It'll come to me. He continued looking you up and down, and hand back over his chin while he racked his brain for answers. And then, recognition appeared in his eyes. With a snap of his fingers, he announced his revelation as though he had forgotten his own birthday. The Cypress, at the summer soiree, of course. Turning back from you, Baxter began rambling to himself about the details. That had to have been before any regionals. So at the time, I was about 14 years old. That makes it 5 years ago from now, right? Cove's mouth fell open. Are you kidding me? Is he serious? Did you really meet this guy at the country club party 5 years ago? If it helps, you were with another person when we spoke. Green eyes, short hair, short generally, with a cute bow tie, I believe. That's my man. He's mine, Baxter. Back off. Oh, so you and Derek? Derek! That was his name. You don't remember him at all. Yeah, I think I did. You were shocked, but yes, you did meet him once at the Cypress. There were no words. If it did happen, how did it even become that? Whoa, that's right. You shook your head. Whoa, that's right. Really? You nodded. It took his explanation to get it, but that memory of the guy you and Derek chatted with was coming back to you. Cove's eyes darted between you and Baxter again. The instigator of his discussion lightly gestured with his hands in response. It's good not to forget a face. You really helped us out back then, Baxter. It's unbelievable that we're meeting again. Did you succeed in sneaking to our soiree? Did you succeed in sneaking to our soiree? I did. Thank you for asking. Huh. Why were you there? You see, my parents are members of the Cypress. I happened to be in that particular location for an event related to my dance circuit. That was the chosen venue because they already had experience with the business in the other branches. That's what he meant by regionals. It's his dance, which I think is really cool. I mean, as you remember, for those of you who saw my Let's Play with Cove, with the wedding DLC, Baxter taught us how to dance, among other things. Funnily enough, the entire reason they joined was for the connections they could make with other members there. Looks like that perk has finally hit for me too. Originally, I thought it was only a good since I could occasionally dance there. Baxter suddenly stopped and stood up straighter. He grinned. Dance? Oh yes, that's what I was going to say. I'm a ballroom dancer, hence the phrasing earlier. Oh, I don't know much about dancing, but that's pretty cool. It's not hard once you get the basics down. Cove didn't look convinced at all. Baxter took that as a cue to keep talking. Well, he grinned in a way that was rapidly becoming familiar to you. If either of you ever looking for a partner, I'm available. Cove frowned at the overt forwardness. Sorry, but I'm already engaged. Thanks. I'll pass, I think. I'll take you up on that offer sometime. I'd rather not. I could probably show you some moves. You didn't answer the question. Baxter nodded understandingly and let the subject go. After that, there was a lull in conversation, and Cove attempted to fill it. What made you decide on Sunset Bird? Oh, yes. Well, my parents rented a condo, so I had a place to stay while I'm off for a semester from college and not living in the dorms. There was a playful glint in Baxter's eyes as he continued. Ideally, they wanted to send me somewhere that wasn't too exciting, but lucky for me, they picked the wrong street, considering the two of you live here. He is such a flirt. Cove was practically reeling over how Baxter found a way to fit comments like that into every single topic thus far. Why do you keep doing that? You don't know us, but you talk like you already do. Cove spoke, firm yet genuinely confused, and Baxter smiled cautiously. I don't feel the need to keep words of praise to myself, and when I say something, I mean it. Plus, what's the point of spending my off semester alone? The best part of being somewhere new is getting to interact with new people. That's how I feel, Baxter. Honestly, that's how I feel. Am I honestly the first person who's acknowledged you're attractive and intriguing people? True, you're hidden away in a tiny tourist trap, but still. Baxter crossed his arms. After studying your faces a few more seconds, he decided to continue. Am I only trying to score a hookup or get a romantic fling started by saying these things? No, that isn't the point of speaking well of others. I was raised better than that. Though, would I be fussed if that's what my words led to? Also no. I am flexible, not a surprise. I can back off with the lines if you don't like the attention, but I would like to be friends if we can. Cove wasn't sure how to respond. He glanced at you and he continued to look at your face when he spoke. Thanks for answering. I don't think I'm interested in that. Maybe not the friend thing, but the other. Maybe not the friend thing, but the other part. It doesn't bother me. I'd appreciate it if you didn't do that with me. I find it pretty entertaining. You probably annoy a lot of people. You stood there and sure how to react. All said, I find it pretty entertaining. Baxter laughed at that. Glad we're working things out. Shifting his weight on his other foot, Baxter tried to move forward. So, since you both are already out here, did my arrival interrupt anything? Definitely not. You smiled and silently agreed. You laughed in a spiritual way. You looked away nervously. You told Baxter that you were both wanting to see who was going to move in. All we were doing was waiting for you to finally show up. Baxter laughed at that, immensely pleased with your response. I'm getting a reputation in this town already. Not bad. Well, if either of you are free, I'd be thrilled to hang out this summer. But we can save the schedule talk for later. I should get my things inside. He gave a small nod of the head and flashed you both a dazzling smile. Goodbye for today. Bye. Cove gave a small wave as well. Bye. Baxter then turned on his heels and strolled back to his suitcase, picking it up and bringing it into his condo. You and Cove were silent as Baxter unlocked the door and disappeared inside the house. I would have at least offered to help him, at least. I mean, he's nice enough, Baxter is. And we end up finding out he's a really cool dude. Later, especially during the wedding DLC. With him being completely out of the scene, Cove let out a long breath. I don't know how I'm gonna explain that guy to my dad. You burst into a fit of laughter, trying to imagine the conversation. At least the job is done. We saw the new neighbor, and now we can go meet up with Terry and Miranda. Yeah, we should get going. You gave Baxter's condo one last glance over your shoulder. You were looking forward to seeing more of him. You thought he was charming. You were not interested in him. You weren't sure how to feel. You thought he gave a pretty bad first impression. You decided he definitely wasn't someone you like. I'm gonna say, you thought he was charming. You really weren't sure when, but at some point Baxter won you over. You were curious to get to know him better. Laughing quietly, you wondered how Baxter would fit in with the rest of the neighborhood. Turning your attention back to Cove, you pushed all thoughts of Baxter aside. You both started making your way towards town. A little while later, you and Cove reached the main street in town. All of a sudden, you stopped walking. What's wrong? I think I heard my phone. You dug your cell phone out and looked at it with a satisfied grin. There was a new message. You opened the new text from Miranda, and all you saw was, I can see you. Immediately from where you stood, you started swiveling your head around. You couldn't spot Miranda anywhere, but she did send you more messages. Haha, I see you looking. Where are you? Haha, come on. Really, Randy? Oh, okay. I see you looking. Really, Randy? The message was sent and you were back to looking around, scanning for any sign of movement and familiar faces, but they were still invisible. Cove looked at you carefully, raising an eyebrow. Miranda, come on out. You sighed at the ridiculousness. You burst into laughter and antics. You sent your own joking text. If you want to keep hiding, Cove, and I can just go do our own stuff without you, is what you decided on. You smirked, hitting send on that message. Cove looked at you curious, raising an eyebrow. What's happening? Before you could even begin explaining anything to Cove, you both snapped your attention to the yelling across from the street. Then there you saw Miranda and Terry coming out from behind the backside wall of the grocery store. They both started waving wildly to draw even more attention to themselves. Cove took a step in their direction. Grinning, he put his hands around his mouth to better project his message across the street. Hey! Laughing and arm in arm, the girls stopped only to look both ways, and they rushed across the empty street. Hi, I hope you weren't waiting too long.
Hey, buddies.
Hey, buddies. Hi. Hi, that joke was not funny. I'm amazed. How did you appear out of nowhere like that? Hey, I'm happy to see you two. I thought you both knew better than to jaywalk. Wordlessly you waved. I'm amazed. How did you appear out of nowhere like that? They started giggling again. Terry glanced at Miranda, wondering what their story should be. It was magic. Gesturing in a vaguely whimsical manner, Terry went along with the decision. And magicians never reveal their secrets. Ooh. That's fair. Terry then closed the distance between her and Cove and crushed him in a painfully tight hug. You're finally here. It's been so long. What took you? He did his best to eke out a reply with his chest being compressed. Sorry. Eventually, she let him go. Terry looked at him with a beaming smile, but Cove was distracted, rubbing his arms.